Hi guys, Semmler here for DreamHack Summer 2014. I'm joined here by Semmler, who's been handling the CSGO casting. How are you doing?
Not bad, man. Not bad. End of the day, it's been a good run. We just finished our group phase, so we're really excited about the playoff brackets tomorrow, all in one day.
All in one day? Yeah. As you can see, we are outside here, getting a bit of peace and quiet. Dota 2 is still going on behind us, but I wanted to pull you away. Can you kind of summarize how the days have been going so far in CSGO?
It's been very exciting, actually. We had a very close group, actually, with Group C. So we saw the teams go through that we expected to, so there was no big upsets there. But Group D was actually one that was fairly cool because we went into it really expecting to have like clear-cut favorites as to who was going to get out. Na'Vi, Lemon Dogs. Lemon Dogs a mixed team, so not expecting great things from them, but still they had the talent and the Delpan to be able to get like second seed. So we're like, okay, this is how it should be going. And then total upset. So Na'Vi are taking second seed, Lemon Dogs get first seed, and the two teams that came into the BYOC, that was the BYOC group, actually had great performances, like a miracle win over Na'Vi. That was Flipside, one of the Swedish mixed teams that actually, or not a mixed team, they've been together for a few months, but still, like not that much experience, so we wouldn't really expect to see big performances from them on LAN. They actually showed us something magical versus Na'Vi in the first match of the day, so that was very cool, but then it kind of went as expected after that when Na'Vi just locked things down. We're like, well, okay, we're not first seed anymore, but there's no way in hell we're not getting second seed. So it was a good showing, guys, but this is how it's going to be. And so we actually have just great playoff brackets tomorrow. It's going to be excellent.
So what is your schedule looking like for tomorrow now?
Tomorrow is going to be 10 to 10, or well, 10 to 12, 1-ish, I'm imagining, because we start at 10 in the morning with the first quarterfinal match. We can only stream one of them, unfortunately, just due to the schedule, the way it breaks down, because we wanted to do both semifinal matches. So we have one quarterfinal match that starts at 10 in the morning, and then we go into the two semifinal matches, just back to back, and then the finals are slated to start at 10 p.m. CEST. So it's going to be, just 12-hour straight run to get through the quarters and the semis, and then we will have the finals starting at 10 in the arena.
And so which match have you picked to cover?
So the quarterfinal match is like the Counter-Strike match, basically. Counter-Strike Global Offensive, I mean, it's all this is like the historical match where you have NiP, basically, the kings of CS, like the most successful team in CS history, pretty much. And they're going up against their rivals, Very Games Titan, basically. They have such a long history together, these two teams. And they just seem fated this year in particular. The past 6 months, they just seem fated to meet in the quarterfinals or the semifinals. And so when we were doing the bracket draw, I was like, okay, guys, you know what's going to happen. Like, there's no getting around it right now. NiP and Titan, we're going to draw them out, and it's going to happen. And sure enough, third match on the quarterfinals is NiP and Titan. So we will be casting NiP and Titan tomorrow. That's going to be the first match to start the day.
Okay. Now, can you even predict like how that's going to go as a series?
Oh, man, it's a real thing of beauty because Titan. Okay, so obviously, I mean, just went on about that, how they have so much experience playing against each other, so they know all the ins and outs. But one thing that's really interesting is that now we have a new lineup for Titan. They don't have Shoxy on the team anymore, and they've brought back in Kenny S. Now, way back in the day when they were still Very Games, and this was still, CSGO was young and it was bright and, very sunny outside and all that sort of thing, they were able to take really close games versus NiP. Never win, but always 16-14, 16-14, tooth and nail, very close. Now Kenny is back on the team again. So we get to see, like, are they capable of actually beating NiP now? Kenny, he's had time to mature. They've brought him back in the team. The team has matured as a whole, but do they feel good enough, about everything to be able to actually take it to NiP and take the win in a best-of-3 series? So NiP are playing very well right now as well. Like, they didn't over-practice for this tournament. They had 1 week of boot camp, and they came right into it. So they're really controlling us, like, when they're going to peak in this. And it feels like we saw everything we expected to see out of them in the group phase. Just solid play, no mistakes in communication or anything of the sort. They just kind of came in, sorted out business and then went on their way. So NiP seemed to be in very good shape. Titan, however, came out second in their group. So second seed, that's why they're running into NiP. And so that's kind of like the X factor here is like, are Titan going to be able to pull it together with Kenny S? Is he going to be able to op like the way he needs to be able to take on NiP? Now, funny little detail there is that after talking with Titan, once these, before the drawings happen, Kenny S is the only player on that team who actually wants to play NiP. The rest of Titan, they were like, no, we don't want to play NiP. Like, we really are. We just want VP. We want Hellraisers. We want somebody else in the group. Please just give us another matchup. But Kenny S is really fired up. He's like, I want to play NiP. Like, I want to make my mark right here. I want to say, like, I am going to be bigger, better than all of those guys. And so Kenny S, he's like the sole guy, but he is the guy who needs to be fired up, right, for Titan because he's their sniper, and they rely heavily on him to get work done. So if Kenny S is feeling confident going into tomorrow's match, I think Titan stand a pretty good chance.
That's great. It sounds like almost the perfect storyline there for you guys.
It is. It is. That's you couldn't ask for a better way to start off the quarterfinals. And then the bottom half of that bracket is super stacked. Like there are all the top teams that you expect to make it to the finals. In the top bracket, you have one of the BYOC teams and also one of the qualifying teams. You have Epsilon. Let me see, Epsilon, Lemon Dogs. So Lemon Dogs, that kind of story that happened here in Group D, where they were able to get first seed. They get. It's kind of a weird break basically, because Epsilon also didn't want a strong team in the first round, and both of them are going to run into each other in the first half. So that's already like working out perfectly for both of those guys. Epsilon is the team that Shoxy landed on as well, the member that got removed from Titan. So we have one French team going up against a Swedish mixed team. That's going to be exciting right there. But it's still not like world-class top tier. These are kind of like the just below second tier, sort of teams. And then it's going to be VP. They're going up against Na'Vi. So that's a very exciting storyline right there, because VP, I mean, EMS1 Katowice, major champions right there. They are definitely top 4 in the world right now, no doubt about it. So this is a team that we're looking at to get into the grand finals and potentially take it. And Na'Vi, who just took their win on Star Series. So we're expecting big things out of Na'Vi as well. We want to see a repeat performance, basically. Can they make it through? And lo and behold, quarterfinals, they run into a championship material team. So that's going to be really good. That's the match to watch, basically, in the top bracket. Bottom bracket is basically Nip Titan and then Hellraiser's Ents. Or not Hellraiser's Ents, sorry, Hellraiser's SK. Hellraiser's SK, we talked about Nip Titan, but Hellraiser's SK is a bit more of an odd sort of match, because that can really kind of go any way. Hellraisers, we haven't seen much of them lately, but in the group phase at least, best of 1 matches, they've shown that, okay, they're a team to be reckoned with, like they still have it. SK is a team that's recently been put together in the past month, but they were able to knock out Fnatic. And now Fnatic are a team that we expect to get through, right? I mean, they're the DreamHack Winter Champions. They are considered top 6, if not, top 6, top 8, basically. But a team that, is capable of taking a tournament, they get knocked out by SK. So you're looking at this thinking like, well, anything is possible now. SK, they've taken out a top dog. They're going up against Hellraisers, a team that, kind of have to prove themselves still. We could really be looking at, like, say, NIP SK in the semifinal or something along those lines, and then it's anybody's game, because you're talking about a Swede-on-Swede match. So it's all over the place, man. There's so many different storylines right here in these quarterfinals. Like, we couldn't have asked for a better draw.
That's really good news. I mean, what's the root cause of all these upsets? Is it just playing online? Is it so much different in CSGO, compared to playing online, or?
There is that, like the added pressure, obviously, of playing online. Online, obviously, you're comfortable at home. It's a good setting for you, or you're in a team house or whatever. But basically, like, obviously, there's those different pressures. But there's also in CS, it's particular. Well, I suppose in Dota 2 it's the same thing, basically, where it's just like, best of 1. It can go either way. There is that random spice to it where anything can kind of happen in a best of 1 map. So the potential for upsets is there, just like what happened with SK Fnatic. Best of 3, maybe Fnatic win it, or maybe they lose the first map, but then they come right back and just crush. But they never get the opportunity to show that because it's just a best of 1 group match. So now, going into it, well, that's the thing. It's like it's a little bit. The way this group phase breaks out with the best of 1s is like anything can kind of happen. So there's always that element of risk involved. But it did kind of break down the way that we expected it to in the end.
Now, speaking of pressure, just looking at the CSGO booth, it's been jam-packed. I mean, you guys have got fans everywhere. They're literally climbing on railings just to get a peek in there. Is all this fan pressure and just being... You guys kind of have a smallish booth here at DreamHack. Is that one thing where CSGO kind of struggles a bit?
Well, I think it's only a matter of time, right? I think it's also... It's not for lack of desire on DreamHack's part to give us more space. It's just the fact that they just don't have more space, right? I mean, they have 3 massive stages for Dota 2, StarCraft 2, and League of Legends. So where are you going to be able to put the other 2 tournaments and still, keep DreamHack, basically, which is a BYOC land? So, they have to have, like, that marriage between the 2. And right now, it's CS who are kind of not getting the shaft, but just basically you have the smaller space, and Hearthstone. But this is like Hearthstone's first. Well, it's not the first tournament under the DreamHack banner, but still, like DreamHack Summer, this is the first Hearthstone tournament, so it's normal that they would get a smaller space. But like CS, I think after DreamHack Winter, the turnout there, okay, that was a major. So you're going to get more draw, but now it's like, okay, even for a small, like, $30,000 tournament, and that's funny that we're saying it's small, but still, it's like, for a $30,000 tournament, you're still getting people just, like, in droves who are showing up behind, like, every group match that we've had, behind all the teams, there's just ranks and ranks of people just watching, like, trying to crane over, or standing on, like, the walls, the scaffolding, like, climbing the walls to be able to actually see the players play. Like, that's how many people are starting to stack up to watch these games. And the grand finals, we have it actually in the arena. No, I think it's like the line is just going to be out the door and it's going to be packed again, just like for the winter finals.
That's really good to hear. I mean, looking at...
It's so funny. It's funny. Sorry, you know, it's funny because the Hearthstone is like right next to us, the viewing area, and most of the time, if there's nothing, if the Hearthstone security like don't come in and put a stop to it, the CS guys just steal all the Hearthstone chairs and just like, you know, take over the Hearthstone viewing area. So like the whole thing turns into just basically CS until the Hearthstone security show up and be like, well, we kind of need our chairs back, guys. You know, like we have a tournament going on. You know, people want to watch. Yeah. So like, in the end, it's really cool to see the turnout here in Sweden for CS.
It's just, that's how dedicated your fans are. I mean, you mentioned there about space and everything. If you remember, Dota 2's kind of grown. Every DreamHack, they seem to get bigger and stage. Do you see CSGO going down that same route and the same scale, or?
I think there's definite potential for it. I mean, we don't know. You know, the word around the campfire, right? You know, majors around the corner, you know, like down throughout the year, but we don't know yet if there's going to be majors. But even regardless of that fact, you know, like the majors aren't there. Even for tournaments like this, you know, just the turnout and the turnout on the streams as well is just growing and growing. More and more people. You walk through the halls, and now you see a whole lot of people playing CS. When last year, DreamHack Summer, it was just all of Dota, and like, you know, you just don't see anything else. Now it's like a lot of people are playing CS. So really, the game is gaining a whole lot of momentum. So the next 6 months are going to be really interesting because you're going to see more lands picking it up, more, and what we really want, you know, with all this attention that it's getting is, you know, obviously sponsor interest. You know, they're going to get involved with it and start saying like, well, okay, CS is actually a good place for us to put our money, and, you know, help to support the scene and get exposure and all that sort of thing. But like, it seems like everything is pointing towards CS is going to get bigger and better. But it's doing it healthily, right? Because it's the community. It's really like the community that are turning out. And if we get more majors, you know, those are sponsored by the community as well. I mean, like you guys with Dota 2 and the Compendium, it's the same sort of thing. So one can hope, right? Cross fingers that, you know, we do have those majors.
Do you like seeing multiple majors throughout the year, in opposed to compos like the international just being one big event?
Yeah, I actually do. Like a lot of people are saying that well, you know, it's like it's not a you know, cake and eat it too sort of scenario, but it's like, well, we should have majors, but we should have an international too, right? And I was just like, well, you know, I actually prefer the fact that it's just majors spread out across the year. Like, I would love to have like one major per season, basically, because we know that, like, off the initial numbers, you know, we know that Valve are making quite a bit. Like, there is quite a bit of a pot now that's starting to gather off of these esport keys, these cases that are just being perpetually sold by Valve. So that pot continues to grow. So now we have to wonder, like, okay, when are they actually going to give us these majors? And the way that we saw it happening, you know, after DreamHack Winter is, okay, you know, Katowice is coming up. That's in the spring. So does that mean that we're going to get like a major, you know, every 3 months, every season? You know, are we going to get like this major tournament event to look forward to that's going to cap the season, and then you're going to have that 3-month break for teams to recover, and then it's another major, and then it's just like bam, bam, bam throughout the year. You have that sort of stability there for the teams to really work around and have these goals to fix on and just develop for. Versus this one wham bam thank you ma'am massive event, you know, right, where it's just like, this is the Super Bowl, you know, this is like, I know Super Bowl is like way overused, everybody uses that reference, but I mean, it kind of makes sense, right? Like,
$10 million is getting there.
It's the World Cup, we'll put it that way, right? I mean, it's $10 million. That's actually like that's like tennis major, you know, sort of area as far as the prize fund is concerned. So that's a lot of money. But at the same time, it's like it's very cutthroat, and basically, you know, it's a very top-heavy prize pool, in my opinion. So it's just like you have 2 or 3 teams that are making a lot of money, and then for the rest of it, it's kind of like, okay, this is like, this is good. I like to have the opportunity spread out. I like to have like the 250, 100 grand for first place. That's good money, and then, you know, 3 months down the line, you have another opportunity, and, you know, it's just like more stable. I think, in my opinion, it's just like it allows for just sponsors to get involved. You have that exposure, so they're going to be willing to continue sponsoring teams because they know 3 months down the line, oh yeah, okay, there's the next opportunity for exposure, and then, you know, it's just like bam, you get stronger and stronger and stronger that way. Whereas it's just like one massive event where teams are going to like sponsor teams like right before the international, and then, you know, be like, okay, you know, that's cool, thanks, you know, thanks guys, but yeah, you know, until the next one the next year, right? So that's kind of where I stand. But it's like everybody's got a different opinion in CS right now. Like Anders is a very big fan of like, we want majors and an international, and then some people are like, we want an international, and then, you know, I'm just content with the majors, honestly.
And where do you see CSGO going in terms of development? Do you think they may consider the Dota 2 option of tournament tickets and listening to announcers in game? Is that something the casters have been pushing for?
It's something that we've been wondering about, because we know that, well, obviously history, well, it's not history repeats itself, but Valve take the information that they get from their games, the previous games, you know, TF2, Dota 2, it's obvious that, you know, Dota 2 takes a lot from TF2, and then, you know, what we have going on now in CS, a lot of that comes from Dota 2. So it seems like the logical, you know, the next step in the train is going to be, you know, tickets, basically, so events can buy it, you know, it's going to run like Dota 2. I want to see the marketplace opened up as well, like in Dota 2, where you're able to really just like submit skins, they get voted in, and bam, you know, it's a regular thing like that, so that you get more and more artists involved, and it's just the community continues to grow around that. I want to see more activity there. But yeah, tickets I think is a big thing. The one big thing that we keep asking for, like, you know, we're all wondering, is it going to get implemented or not, is for a way to have the commentators actually be heard in game, because you're already able to watch it through GoTV in the game client.
Yeah, I think that's the next thing.
And that's the thing, you know, it's like, are we going to get what Dota 2 has, where it's like the broadcasters can be heard in game, and then you get that option, that real option between watching on Twitch and watching in game, and you know, that step down. I think that's like the next thing that we're going to be looking at. But like Valve, we all know also now that Valve, you know, we know they're like developing 6 months in advance, and it comes down to like, you know, do they want to, you know, like, are they going to be able to release everything and all that sort of thing? So we have to see, you know, really where they decide to go with it next. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's really just like, okay, this worked for Dota 2, this is what we want to put into CS, and we're just going to see it kind of like take those steps like that.
You mentioned Twitch. I know that Twitch recently launched a very specific feature for CSGO where you can kind of filter maps and the rankings. Is that kind of the direction you want to see the game going in? More is the CSGO scene very connected to the developers of CSGO?
Yes, absolutely. We know for a fact that the devs, they read Reddit, they read HLTV. There's been a lot of feedback actually, and it's very cool to see. Like the devs in updates, they actually, you know, make reference to Redditors and stuff like that. Like, thanks, you know, for, you know, XX for pointing this out. And you're like, okay, well, like that really encourages you to then come back with more and more feedback, like point out bugs or be like, hey, this would be a really cool idea. And then lo and behold, you know, next time around, Valve may implement that small change and be like, yo, thanks for pointing that out, or thanks for this tweak on this map or something like that. But like, it's just constant, where we know that Valve, they constantly read all of the feedback and they really take everything into consideration, and that's very cool to see that back and forth between the developers and the community. It's something sometimes you don't really see. It's not like Valve come out and make statements and promises. Like that's definitely, like, you don't do that as a developer, but they still show that they're reading everything and they're taking it into consideration, and if they agree with it, they are putting it into the game. So as far as the community is concerned, we definitely know that Valve listen, and that's great for us because it just means like we have that relationship. It's not like we're being ignored or anything like that. Okay.
That's good to hear. Now, one of the long-running arguments that has obviously been attached to Counter-Strike for a very while is the 1.6 argument. Okay. Are people starting to... Is this the CS? Is CSGO the CS that's going to replace 1.6 basically? Is it already happened?
It already has.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. But I mean, it was kind of like the step, you know. 1.6 was getting dropped by tournaments. CSGO got picked up, and now it used to be like, it really used to be a thing where like every tournament you would have threads and threads and threads created, like, oh, and 1.6 was better because of X, and now that's actually, I hardly ever see those at all anymore. And it just really feels like the community as a whole and the pro scene, sorry, my nose is itchy, and the pro scene are really just coming to adopt CSGO and make it theirs, you know, make it like, just, you don't see that much, you know, that often anymore, like people throwing it back to 1.6, apart from like history, basically, like, oh, this team, their history, or this player in particular, their history, or they had these tendencies in 1.6. It's no longer like, oh, you know, you could do this in 1.6, and I think that should be in Go, or anything like that. It's like, okay, you know, it's more player orientated. So that's cool, because you want the game to keep its history. It's not like we just want to be like, oh, 1.6 and Source never happened. No, of course not. But like the nitpicking about details, you know, from the different games, that's actually kind of gone away now, which is really cool in my opinion. It's like, let's focus on the game that we have, and let's see it become the best it can be. You know, the past was the past, and it was a glorious past, but now is the time of CSGO, and let's focus on that, right? And it feels like the community are really starting to come around that and really adopt the game for themselves.
And is the pro scene still helping almost balance the game? I know in the early days of CSGO, Valve were on board to get pro player feedback, basically. Is that still happening?
Certainly, we know for a fact that the players are communicating actively. I mean, well, the big guys who have been saying that a lot is NIP, you know, but, and that was actually a bit of a problem with a few teams where they thought that NIP were getting preferential treatment from Valve. They thought that, oh, you guys have this straight in for, you know, with Valve, that, you know, like, this isn't fair. Like, why are you guys able to communicate with them and we're not? Why should I be talking to you and not straight to them like you are, and this sort of thing. And, you know, so there was a bit of like, you know, like a little drama, whatever, you know, like schoolyard sort of blah 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 sort of thing going on. So that kind of went away. But we do know that Valve, like, even, you know, I'll say that they'll make reference to Redditors and stuff like that in their changes. They'll also have talks with players at tournaments. You know, for the major events, they had a lot of talks with the play, like the Valve employees who were there at those events. They grilled all the players, and then updates that came after that, they were like, thanks NBK, you know, from Titan for this change on Mirage, and you know, they would actively, you know, take the feedback from the players. it's definitely not a case of like Valve are just like not interested in all it in the feedback. Like they really do take the time to listen and then think it over, and you know, it's not something that's just jumped to one thing to the next, but they really do take the time to listen to their community and their players, because I mean the players are the ones playing at the top, and I feel like Valve have done a very good job of actually like balancing it out between the two, because you obviously can't make it all like pro player, you know, all the pro player things, all the things that they want, you know, those very like high end sort of details. It may seem like, you know, simple for a pro player or whatever, but for the casual player or somebody who's totally new, like wall banging, you know, that's been a big thing where people were talking about wall banging and, you know, should it be in, should it be out, that sort of thing. And like obviously like the higher tier players want wall banging because it adds that extra level of depth. But then for the casual player, you know, it's no fun getting shot and not even knowing where you got killed from, right? The guy's on the other side of the wall, you had no idea. Yeah. So that's not a fun thing. That's just an example. So it's like, I feel like Valve have done a really good job of just like, you know, keeping it competitive enough for the pro players to be, you know, pleased, and keeping it, you know, accessible enough for the new players who are just coming in and who are constantly coming in as well. That's
really good to say. So I'm going to let you shoot. Before I do, is there anyone you'd like to thank? Shout out to your fans, of course, and everything.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, big shout outs to everybody who tunes in to us. It's a real, I mean, it's a real honor that you guys have been, you know, just tuning in consistently to listen to the cast. You know, it's Anders and I, you know, our great pleasure to be able to cast for you guys like this. So really appreciative of all the feedback and the support from the community and everybody out there. You know, and also just I guess a big shout out to, you know, to James and the Good Studio, because, you know, that's always something I have to add. You know, the Good Studio, basically my home for 2 years. So big shout outs to you guys. And yeah, I mean, big thanks to you, Cyborg, for everything you do for the Dota community and also for the CS:GO community, because you did help a lot with when we were all, you know, under attack. Basically, you stepped in and you were like, okay, guys, let's settle this. Yeah. So big thanks to you, man, and yeah, and everything you do.
No problem. So hopefully that wraps up CS:GO here at DreamHack for you, and obviously you have to check out the games tomorrow because it sounds like a perfect storyline almost. Thanks, guys.